Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, stars align for the Red Raiders, 5 of them. Also, Joey McGuire says you're not losing games because of your quarterback, and we get to secrets of the book. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to see you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks, as always, to those making us their first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. He's the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you, my man. And kicking off a show here today in a way that I didn't anticipate necessarily. Thought we'd have plenty of Red Raider football to get to as we continue to digest the game against Oregon, and we will. We'll hear from head coach Joey McGuire on the quarterback conversation and also the secrets of the book later in the show. But first, at long last, publicly revealed, Micah Hudson is a Red Raider. 5-star wide receiver, as rated by whatever service you like. They tell me, Chris, as far as ratings are concerned, the highest rated commitment in the history of Texas Tech football. With all due respect to the Golden Palomino and Dave Parks behind me, this is an exciting, exciting week for something that has been in place, I think, for a little while, but finally came to the surface, and Tech fans have a chance to celebrate.
Yeah, it was not really a matter of if, it was when, and I think Micah was going to be one of those that just I think there was even some talk that, if you would have beat Oregon, he would have done this Saturday night. Obviously that didn't happen, but he just so it was just like in what it was going to be. I don't know, a month ago, 3 months ago. I mean, we had we were all over the place on trying to figure out what, but I think that the general thought was it was just that he was coming to Texas Tech. Period. I think he's. So the timing was, it gives the Red Raider fans something to be really excited about. And I'm, you could talk about recruiting sometimes and like, hey, you gotta wait, you gotta develop them. No, man, this dude is ready made. He would be your best wide receiver on your team this coming Saturday if he's on your team. It is not even a question. He could have gone anywhere in the country. And when I mean anywhere, I'm talking any blue blood you want to toss up. Bama, Ohio State, obviously A&M and Texas wanted him. Michigan, Clemson, I don't know, USC. I mean, keep throwing them out. They all
Dallas Cowboys,
Georgia, yeah. Well, the Cowboys aren't a blue blood yet. I'm not taking the bait just after the week 1 win over the Giants. But. He could have, LSU, anywhere that you can come up with. He's got some of that juice, Cowan, that you really lack right now on your team, and especially on the offensive side. you have good skill players, okay, on offense, but you don't have anybody. And I wrote this last night. Like, there's nobody like Kiki or Eric Ezekama, or some of those guys that you had recently that, really were different, and they ended up being draft picks, and they are still at some level in the NFL. And he's better than both of those guys were at this stage by far in every facet. Those are just two names that popped up. And it's not a knock on those guys. It just tells you how good Micah Hudson is. But, credit to James Blanchard and especially Brian Nance. You're going to see a lot of talk about Brian Nance. He's one of the personnel guys. He really built a relationship. But this is a kid that wanted to play in Zach Kittley's offense. I think Kirk Bryant, another offensive analyst, did a really good job here. And as did Baron Morton and Will Hammond, these future quarterbacks. I mean, everybody's already skipped over Baron and is like, oh, man, the Hudson-Hammond connection is going to be lights out. I'm like, whoa, time out. Baron gets next. He's next in line, and Baron will be throwing to him next year, I would think. So anyway, fun day, man, because this is the kind of energy and juice that you need like on the field, but it was after a couple of tough losses. It was also some nice news to get on a Monday afternoon or Monday night.
Whether it's a relationship with a coach, his girlfriend is going to Tech, NIL agreements or possibilities, he hates humidity and prefers a dry heat, whatever it could be, will you tell me specifically what got Micah Hudson interested in and committed to the Red Raiders? Because there's so much reporting out there, Chris, on a guy like this. And like, you lose your wide receivers coach Emmett Jones to Oklahoma, and well, here comes Oklahoma reporters. Could we be in on Micah Hudson?
Yeah.
You got doorknobs reporting on Texas sports elsewhere here in the state, or the Aggies. Oh no, I think Tech's going to be 6-6 or 0-12, and blah blah blah. And Hudson is actually out there on Twitter saying, nope, still going to hang. I mean, it's wild to take in. So what is the real connection that couldn't be severed, apparently, between the program and this player?
Well, some things to offer up from a context standpoint. I don't think he or his parents really were interested in anything out of state. I kind of chuckled yesterday. I was like, oh, this is real convenient. Somebody trying to drum up a story that wasn't there. But there was a report yesterday afternoon. Oregon is going to get a visit. They're working on it. There's some interest there. They're working on an official visit.
Yeah.
And, because, again, Oregon was just at Texas Tech. Micah Hudson was at this game in Lubbock. I mean, there's some dots that people are trying to connect that weren't there. He was never going out of state. I think people, that's just I just think that was their preference, family's preference. This is a different young man from the standpoint of, and it's refreshing in that, and he will tell you, I'm not about trying to go find the most money that I can make here. That's not what I'm wanting to do. And I'm not interested in that. I'm trying to change a program and help turn a program around. And I've built relationships with some men that I really trust their, who they are and what we've talked about and all those things. Cause he's been up here, Calvin, he's been up here. I don't know. I'd be willing to bet you close to 10 times over the last year. Unofficials just come to hang out, all the above. And he's got a job like this. That's who Micah Hudson is. He has a side job that he works at in the summertime and all that stuff. I do think he's dating somebody that I think she's coming to Texas Tech as well. So that certainly helps you. But he's just somebody that was really didn't like a lot of the fluff that he was being sold by a lot of folks. And I think kind of saw right through that and didn't feel like that's what he was getting from Joey and from Coach Nance and Coach Blanchard and Coach Kitley and Coach Bryant and Juice, you mentioned, and all those. I felt like it was a connection. And I think he really likes Barron and Will Hammond. I just think there was a lot going on there. So
just a good fit, maybe. Happens to be a good fit.
I think so. I think that people can read into it all they want. People are going to suggest, oh man, you're paying him what? I mean, I really don't think there's anything there.
Well, we better. I hope so eventually.
Well, I mean, I just because you see the
right.
Other fan bases, I should say,
of course,
speculating on. Well, I mean, he can't have just picked them over Texas Tech. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, but this was a fun one, and not just because of who the young man is as a person, but he's, I mean, and you see these people like, man, I've been covering this stuff. Like a great, I think, semi-realistic comparison was somebody said yesterday, I've been covering, recruiting in this state for 20 years. He is as close to Garrett Wilson as anything I've seen. If you don't know who Garrett Wilson is, Garrett Wilson came out of Lake Travis about, this is about 5 or 6 years ago. He went to Ohio State. He was a first-round draft pick, and now he was supposed to be Aaron Rodgers' primary target. He's in his second year with the Jets, but he's like the next wave of – and if you watch Monday Night Football last night, he made the unbelievable catch in the end zone where he kind of like tipped it to himself 4 times and then it was like a Dennis Rodman rebound, but he caught it.
It was like a Rodman rebound.
Yeah, and I think where people say is like the ball skills that Micah has is very similar to. And I think Garrett was a little bit taller, but this kid has just got some serious twitch and route running. And if you watch some of these highlights, it's insane. He just makes guys look silly, but it's God given, man. He's really good at football.
Before we go, will you give me a quick answer on why you mentioned Brian Nance specifically? I know that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, Brian Nance is in the personnel department. He works with Coach Blanchard. I think he was somebody that developed this relationship really early, like going back. And I think he was the, kind of the initial, and then he kind of carried it through all the way. And he's somebody, he can't leave campus, and recruit, but I think he developed a relationship with Micah's parents and Micah, and just kind of, and again, I can't emphasize enough. Micah came up here a lot. And for people, they bag on Lubbock and all that. This young man loves it. And he loved what was going on here. I think he loves the whole Joey and just the vibe of the family and the culture and all that stuff, and just really liked continuing to come back and being around it, almost like he was already on the team at times. Yeah. And in fact, I'd sign up for him being on the team this Saturday going forward.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, like Lake Belton can. They're good, man. Like, come on. But no, and I mean that. And I don't know if I've ever said that about a high school player. He would be the best at his position group on your team right now. And you have good players. I mean, don't misunderstand what I'm saying here, because Jerron Bradley is a legit guy, but this guy is different. And I think it's kind of fun to think about, but we're going to have to wait a little bit. He can sign in December, and away we go.
All right. We'll celebrate whenever that day comes to pass as well, but celebrating what we can right now, which is a huge commitment, and that is an understatement for Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders. You know what to do if you're a grown adult rooting for another team, or maybe covering the Texas Longhorns or the Aggies. Get on the internet and harass this child, right? That's what you're doing out there. I see you. Feed me those tears, Scott Tinneman. We're enjoying them here in the 806. Okay, we're back to what went down Saturday. Coming up dead ahead, we'll hear from Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire on a couple of things. We'll get to the secrets of the book coming up. But first, we're going to get to the quarterback conversation, which seems like not one that Coach McGuire is indulging in all that much, but he does have an explanation as to why. We'll get to it next on Locked On Texas Tech. First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. And buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be a stress-inducing experience, but if you've ever done it, you know it can be, especially last minute. But not with Gametime. Gametime is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for sports, concerts, and much, much more. Not just fast, secure, and easy to use, but you're also going to find unbeatable deals on last-minute tickets. And with their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing and start pre-gaming. Download the Gametime app today and rest easy with the Gametime guarantee, knowing you're always going to get the best prices, and you can have them in a flash, delivered straight to your phone. Snag tickets without the stress with Gametime. And just download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today for last-minute tickets and the lowest price, guaranteed. Great to have you along for the ride on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day on YouTube or wherever you got this podcast, free and always available. Let's step back into this present season, going back to Saturday as the Red Raiders fall to the Ducks. Frustrating night once again in the turnover column, and a lot of that related to the quarterback. But was it because of the quarterback? Those could be obviously two different conversations. As we talked about yesterday, Tyler Shuck did a lot of good things for you. Tougher than boot leather, stouter than 9 acres of garlic, whatever way you want to go. But at the end of the day, costly turnovers again, keeping your team in a tough spot. So again, this week we have questions about quarterback considerations. Here's Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire.
the easiest thing to do as an observer is to follow the ball and watch the ball. What we don't see is what went on everything. I think every time you go through stuff, there are always other factors involved. And some of the factors involved are whether it be an O-lineman, whether it be a tight end, whether it be a call by the coach that puts a player in a bad situation, and then you go back and you blame it on that one guy. The one thing that I've always told my quarterbacks, I told Gino this after the Wyoming game, you will always get the blame or the credit as the head coach or the starting quarterback. And you got to understand that that is the position you're in. We have the biggest targets, the easiest targets, and I totally get that. I'm 100% all in on that, and I know Tyler is too because he's definitely a pro. But I do not think that we are losing the football games at the quarterback position. I know there's a lot of people that would disagree with that, and hey, man, I get it and totally understand it. But when you do that, go back and it's easy. You recorded the game. I rewatched the TV copy. The great thing about technology today, you can slow a lot of stuff down, see where the pressure came from, and see what kind of technique that guy played with. And then all of a sudden it's, well, maybe we need another this, maybe we need another that, maybe we need another this, maybe we need another that. That's not the answer. The answer is to eliminate bad football, play better football all the way across the board as a football team. And so that's what we're really going to push for this week.
Chris, I love the finish to that comment. We can go back and forth all day with all the fans about the rest of the quarterback thoughts, but there's some life pearls in there as well, because he talks about it being so easy to pull the plug, quit, do something different, as opposed to digging in and trying to be better at what you're doing. And I think that goes a long way in any setting.
Yeah, prime example. I think you even mentioned it yesterday. I think we were talking about, that there's a couple of those plays where Tyler looks like he's like hesitating and he's kind of pump faking and all that. Well, like the one that he fumbles on when you're kind of in the red zone, the reason he's do you remember which one I'm talking about here?
Yeah.
And the reason he's pump fake, if you go back and watch, and I clarified this yesterday, there's a receiver that's supposed to be coming out of his break, and he runs the wrong way. Tyler is like ready to it's an RPO, you pull it, and like I'm ready to like pull the trigger. And instead, I think the receiver goes the wrong way, and it's like, okay, and then next thing you know, now you're scrambling, but you got four guys on top of you. And it's like one of those things where, but Tyler gets the credit for the fumble, even though, and you're not gonna hear Tyler or Joey, I think, tell you that, well, so-and-so screwed up. It was their fault,
Right.
That's just not, and like on the 4th and 2, you were playing 10 on 11. Because I think somebody just got beat on a block. Okay, they got flat out got beat. I think everybody else had their thing done. If this person holds on to their block for just a second longer, you probably gained 5 yards. But it was on Dorless number 3, who was a really good player for Oregon. And so it's just little things like that. But again, this is what you nitpick, and Joey kind of talked about it. That's where the blame goes whenever you win or when you lose, because you didn't see any of this talk when Tyler Shuck was winning the 4 games, and he's holding up the MVP trophy in the bowl game, and doing so while having food poisoning all day, and they weren't even sure if he was going to play that night, and yet he kicked his ass and all that. And so anyway, it's just the world we live in, man. It's the highs and the lows, right? Sports,
Well, and I think it's so, on point for Coach McGuire, and like we're just talking about there, to consider the context of the position. Head coach, quarterback, he mentions his field goal kicker as well. You're going to get blamed unfairly. You're going to get credit unfairly. You remember John Football? Yeah, you probably do. Do you remember Jake Matthews, or the best college offensive line of the past 30 years in front of Johnny Football? You probably don't. I mean, we all remember the guy who's in the clean pocket just lofting to the burner down the field, right? And it's like, man, what a great quarterback. And I'm sure he is great in his own right. But it takes all 11 to produce things like that. And we're so quick to forget, I think, those other 10 off.
And the group up front needs to be better. I think they know it. Now, granted, the context there is that they were going against, on paper, what will be the best defensive line that they see until they play Texas. And I think some would tell you, from just a pass rush standpoint, this group is better than what Texas can offer up. Shuck also checked into some QB run, which worked because he could see advantage, disadvantage with the light box. And Joe even said it yesterday. We're not going to bang our head. Why aren't we using the running backs more? We're not going to bang our head against when they've got eight guys or 7 or 8 guys.
He said we can all count, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think Shuck, whenever he would get Taj, is that you get an extra hat and like a blocker, and he would be the lead. That's where all the runs got, that's where you're able to get a lot of those yards.
Hey,
so
that sounds like something I was talking about last week, a casting call for a fullback. Where is Dank Hank Teeter? Chris,
but people want to win. People want to win.
Yeah,
I get it. You're going to be frustrated with whoever the head coach is and whoever the quarterback is until you start winning and winning consistently. Certainly.
And he wasn't perfect, but nobody else was either, which is why you lost the game as a team. There were obviously many, many things, as we parsed yesterday, to pick as to where the blame could lie. Okay, before we're out of here, let's take another listen to Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire on something else, obviously generating a lot of conversation here this week, and that is the secret of the book. Was asked a little further about, okay, you say it's analytics, but what does that mean? Can you elaborate any further? Coach McGuire did his best to do that. Here is Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. And the NFL season is on and popping, and the only place to be in the center of all the action is with America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets back, guaranteed. But there's more. All customers, new or old, who bet $5 are going to get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Translation: right now is the best time to join FanDuel by downloading their safe, secure, and easy-to-use app where you can bet on anything and everything. And when you're a winner, you're always paid instantly with FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and take advantage of their NFL kickoff offer that you can't afford to miss. From FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Okay, you say it's analytics, but what does that mean? Can you elaborate any further? Coach McGuire did his best to do that.
There's a couple things. 4th and 2, the percentage of us making that was high. And what you're thinking about that. So we're up right there. So you have the opportunity to possibly end the game going down and scoring and having the time that they're going to have to come back. You definitely have the opportunity to shorten the game if you don't score right there. It goes to the percentage, again, of us making it. There's 12-something, like you can say, okay, well, let's punt the ball right there. All right, well, it's not like we'd shut them out up till that point. And so there is still a high possibility that they score a touchdown or a field goal. They scored a field goal. We went down and we kicked the field goal to go back up, And so you go by the number that this is the percentage to get that first down, to continue that drive, to go win the football game. Now, if you're down, so if I go back to North Carolina State, you're down by 2 scores. Here's the number. So it's like 13, almost 14 minutes. The numbers say that you're not going to have enough possessions being down by 14 points to win that game. Now, sometimes you do get an extra possession, sometimes you don't, but just the numbers say that. In the 2-point conversion, it was a coach's decision in that situation, meaning that they recommended, the book recommended. Whenever we talked, I said, do we have a good 2-point play? Yes, we have a good 2-point play. All right, then let's go get the 2 points. For me, the frustration comes from their 2-point play. And us giving up a gate play is extremely frustrating as a coach because that's all coaching. All coaching. 100%.
Did that clear it up, Chris? A lot to take in there.
Well, yeah, I thought that the last point he makes was a funny one, and it's one that he's right. We haven't really pointed to that. It's like, why you don't chase points? What are you going for it so early? But the whole point is like, don't give up the 2 points to begin with on a gimmick. Right. And they did it against, they did this against Portland State the week prior, just to show it. And so this is kind of their thing. And so it shouldn't have been a surprise, but that's what I think Joey was so frustrated about. I was like, why don't y'all, like, if you want to criticize us, criticize me for this. It's like, no, you've picked the wrong criticism. Like hammer us for like giving up the 2-point conversion and like
defensive guy, man.
Yeah. It's refreshing and transparent to hear him. And I think the thing on the 4th and 2, we just kind of talked about, you're kind of playing 10 on 11 there. And if somebody holds their block, maybe we're having a different conversation. But his point was, you don't have to agree with it. I just want you to understand why we're doing what we're doing. We hadn't exactly stopped them. Okay. We know how much, like in the game in general, we know how much time is left in the game, and it's an aggressive mindset. That's what analytics typically is. It shocks the system because it's outside the box. And again, you and I keep talking about bird in the hand. The bird in the hand is always like the safe thing, the old school thing. I'll kick the extra point because I don't want to take any chances yet. I'm going to punt it just so I can do what is seemingly safest. But there's no guarantee that if you do punt it, that they don't get the 50 yards and then kick a field goal because all you gave up was a field goal. That's what he's saying. Whenever you didn't get the 4th down, you gave up a field goal. We could have kicked it to him 50 yards and still given up a field goal.
And then went back and took the lead. He also mentioned
exactly. And that's what he's just like, I just want people to understand. You don't have to agree. Just hear me out on the reasons why. Because, and he's right. He doesn't, he had a defense that hadn't exactly, and they just given up a 17-play drive to these guys. So that's just why they did what they did. And I'm sure there's a bit of an underdog component that's factored into the formula on, hey man, if you want to be the underdog here and you want to beat the favorite, you kind of gotta go take it. Nobody's going to give it to you. You got to be a bit aggressive here to go get it. But again, it didn't work and didn't really come into play, I guess, per se in some ways. But that's why. And again, people can still disagree and all those things. But I think I appreciate the explanation. I think he's more than willing to not get defensive about it and talk to people about their line of thinking and their reasoning. And if you don't agree with it, that's fine. But I think he does a good job of like trying to explain their stance and that we're not wavering. He's not going to apologize for their stance.
Right. Yeah. Like we've talked about, commit to it if that's the identity that you want to commit to. I still don't get it. I wouldn't have done that 10 times out of 10. And I think I kept screwing it up yesterday. I said twice 28-25, which was cringeworthy, 27-25. And I think that's part of what goes into it for me is that if you don't convert, boom, immediately field goal range and they can take the lead right there. But the reason that we're talking about it is because maybe you missed a block. Otherwise, would we be talking about it at all? If you execute on that play, you pick up the first down and we get a different result. We'll never know now, but it certainly has provided conversation here this week. Let us know what you think of Coach McGuire's explanation in the YouTube comments. Agree or disagree. Chris, enjoyed it all the way through, my man, and we'll be back on the other side to do it again. Thanks for the time as always.
Absolutely. And I disappointed a few folks yesterday because I didn't close it with keep hope alive, people.
That's right.
Yeah. Keep hope alive, man. And see, had I said it yesterday and you did keep hope alive, Micah Hudson drops in your lap. So, but maybe you get another big-time recruit tonight or something.
Now, you not saying that. It was a jury day for me yesterday. I did not keep hope alive. But You didn't say it, and then we have a 5-star commitment. So maybe we need to drop it a little more. I don't know. That's something to consider maybe after this episode. We'll do some research with the R&D team and be back to you on the other side with a report on that. For Chris, I'm Casey. We'll see you for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.